Hello and welcome to another Halloween painting. Again, I'm doing Pennywise. I just wanted to do two different ones because this one here is a more close-up of his face, but it's not quite Pennywise-like, but I thought I'd do it anyway. So I do my 2 coats of acrylic paint. I use orange for the hair. I make a grey for his clothes, but it went a little too grey, so for the second coat I go over that grey with white, and then I just use any red for his nose and the marks on his eyes and his pom-poms. I don't really slow down the painting because it's pretty simple. It's more the pan pastels that are more involved and make the paint or the model come to life. So I wanted to add a balloon to his face, so I got the balloon from the previous Pennywise that I did and sliced it and printed it, and then I paint it and stick it to his head. So now it's onto the pastels after the paint has dried, and I start with neutral grey extra dark 2, and I'm just going under the shadows of his frills and in all the lines of his frills and all the lines of his clothes, because this print has it's good in that it has a lot of lines for where all the shadows are going to be, so that's where I put the neutral grey extra dark. And now I do a layer, or not a layer, but I cover some of the face in neutral grey tint 8 because it's a very light grey and his face is, well, his face is dirty, but not like black dirty, but yeah. And now permanent red going over his lips, his nose, the lines on his face and his little pom-poms. And just to get started on his hair, I get the orange and just do a coat of orange on it. And just like I did with the other Pennywise, I get the orange extra dark to do the shadows in the hair. And then I switched to black for the shadows that are going to be under his frill and where it's going to be really dark. I just wanted to do black instead of grey. And where his hair sits above the frill thingy, there's going to be dark shadows there too, so I put black there as well. And using a black watercolor pencil, I start to put in the lines on his face. Now this print already has some lines indicated, well, where the lines are. I also added more of my own, and then with the same black pencil I go in the very bottom of some of the frills and just draw a line to make it black in there, because that's where the darkest shadow is going to be. And his eyebrows are also black, so I colour them in a little bit as well. I try to do in between the teeth, but it's very hard to get the pencil point in between the teeth on this pattern. Also the hole in the ear is going to be dark too, so I colour them in. And now I get the neutral grey Tint 8 and I do the highlights on some of the frills. And with the same pan pastel I touch up the makeup on his face a little bit. And just repeating the process of basically what I've just done. Using the neutral grey extra dark 2, I go over the shadows and all the creases again. This print makes it really easy to get the creases and all that because they're already in the print, in the design, so I actually didn't mind doing this one. It was quite enjoyable. And now to fix up, or not fix up, now to do the shadows on his pom-poms with permanent red extra dark. You're just doing the bottom of the pom-poms and some of the marks on his face and nose that are going to have shadows. And just using white, I add some highlights to his pom-poms and to his nose on top of the red parts. And then back to the permanent red extra dark to do the corners of his mouth, and where he smiles, where it meets the red line, there's going to be a shadow there too. Now, I don't know, for some reason this bird, he's my bird, but yeah, he really has an issue with me sometimes, and apparently my hand was annoying him, so he decided he would bite it. And after biting, he fluffs up looking all cute like, so you can't go mad at him. So I'm still just using the permanent red extra dark, and then I swap to the permanent red just to go over it again. So this is just a permanent red, like I just said, just going over those red lines again, just blending everything in. And this is, after the red, I use the permanent red extra dark to go over the shadows again. If you saw my other Pennywise video, it's basically the exact same as him, using the reds for the red bits and the grey for his clothes and the oranges for his hair. And this is neutral grey extra dark, so where the hairline meets the head, there's usually a shadow, so I'm just putting in that shadow there. And I just add the same colour to around his eyes, because where your eyes are, the top of them, but underneath your brow is always in shadow, and near your nose as well. And this particular print has some creases along his face, so I'm just adding the same dark grey to the creases on his face. And using the white, I then blend everything in that I've just done, making all the shadows, just to make it seem smooth and not so harsh. And then back to the black pencil, drawing in the lines again and going over anything else that I need that is black. And this is the neutral grey Tint 8, just going over his face again, blending everything together. And then the neutral grey extra dark 1, just to go over the shadows on his face again. And this is orange extra dark, going over the shadows in his hair and the backs of his hair, the back of his hair where it's going to have shadows. This is exactly the same as what I did before and in my previous Pennywise video. And this is the orange shade, just blending and trying to make some depth in the hair. And then after the orange shade, I use the orange to go over everything and blend it all together. And now back to the orange extra dark, just doing the exact same thing, going over the shadows and then blending it all together. I won't slow this one down too much because it's exactly the same as what I've done. It's the permanent red and the permanent red extra dark. And then here, just using a red pencil just to add a little bit more colour, I go over his mouth and all the red parts, and then using the black pencil again, I go over the black parts. Now with that orange, I'm trying to do his eye, but it was virtually impossible to get the orange pencil or a paintbrush or anything into his left eye. So it was very hard to do that eye. And just going over those black lines again with the black watercolor pencil. And then I also do some black dots in the pom-poms just to try and add some shadows in there. And I use white dots as well. And exactly just the same as before, the neutral grey extra dark one to do the shadows along the side of his face. And then blending it with neutral grey tint 8. And I'm just using orange tint to add some highlights to his hair. And just redoing his hair again with the orange extra dark, the orange shade and the orange. And then also going over the rest of him with everything that I've just done, exactly the same. And now finally, using UV resin and a little bit of fishing line, I make the drill out of the side of his mouth. I attach it to his mouth using the UV resin and then let the UV resin slowly drip off. And I also cover his eyes with resin and the red balloon as well. And the balloon is very quick. I just use permanent red and permanent red extra dark for the shadows. And then I cover it in resin and then stick it to his head using resin. I wanted this one to be a little bit dirtier than the other one, so that's why he looks dirtier.